An 18-year-old Missouri woman by the name of Carly Hertel was facing a felony charge of first-degree property damage after smearing mascara all over the windows and mirrors of a parked car in June of 2014. Hertel reportedly became upset over how the car was parked in Chesterfield's Jewish Community Center on Baxter Road. She covered the car in mascara and scratched its windshield and a window. She also left a note saying, "How about you park your car like a normal person?" The note also included an expletive. It was later determined that Hertel caused more than $3,000 worth of damage to the car. A police report stated that after Hertel was arrested, she confessed to the vandalism, saying that the way the car was parked had infuriated her. Number 11. G-Zo. In Queens, New York, a four-man street fight over a parking spot on Casena Boulevard ended with a car plunging into a newly opened bakery. The incident began at around 4 p.m. on November the 16th of 2020, when two men in an Audi A6 and another two men from another vehicle got out of their respective vehicles and started confronting each other regarding a parking space. A witness caught the heated confrontation on cell phone video, showing the two drivers, namely 24-year-old Ji-Zo and 35-year-old Zong Li, getting into a fist fight. Zou's passenger, 35-year-old Jonathan Zhang, wasn't directly involved initially despite carrying a baseball bat. However, when the unnamed man who was accompanying Li joined the physical altercation, Zhang intervened, attacking that individual with the bat. Meanwhile, Zhou and Li continued throwing punches at each other. Onlookers could be heard shouting at the men to stop. Zhou eventually walked away and went back into his Audi. At that point, Li reportedly managed to wrestle the bat away from Zhang and went after Zhou, who was making an abrupt U-turn. Li clobbered the car once with the bat before Zhou stepped on the gas and subsequently slammed his car into his rival. The footage showed Li bouncing off the Audi's hood as the car accelerated across 4 lanes of traffic and through the glass windows of the bakery. Zhou attempted to flee the scene on foot but was immediately apprehended. He and the 3 other men were all facing assault charges. Li, his passenger, and 4 other people standing near the crash site were taken to the Presbyterian Queens Hospital for non-life-threatening injuries. Court records indicated that Zhou was additionally charged with reckless endangerment. Leaving the scene and menacing, he was booked into Rikers Island on a $25,000 bail. Zhou's family claimed that he wasn't an actual crazy guy, but that cocaine might have made him unstable. Number 10. Haley Hightower. In the early hours of May the 17th of 2023, an Alabama woman was arrested after she drove her car into a club and injured 2 individuals following a dispute with her ex-boyfriend. The incident unfolded at approximately 12:10 a.m. when police received a report of a dispute between a couple in the billiard club's parking lot located in 4130 Government Boulevard in Mobile. Following the verbal altercation, the ex-boyfriend entered the establishment, upon which 34-year-old Haley Hightower decided to smash her vehicle through the front door of the building, striking 2 people near the entrance. Fortunately, the victims only suffered non-life-threatening injuries. When officers arrived, Hightower was first taken to a hospital for medical care before being taken to jail. Records indicated that she was charged with 2 counts of second-degree assault, 2 counts of second-degree criminal mischief, first-degree criminal mischief, public intoxication, and reckless endangerment. Number 9. Family Feud flight. A Gol Airlines flight, which was about to leave from Salvador to Sao Paulo, Brazil, devolved into chaos as a mass brawl broke out between more than a dozen women on February the 2nd of 2023. The fight erupted between 2 families after a woman had asked another passenger if she could swap seats with her child who had special needs. When her request was declined, she had a violent breakdown and attacked the other passenger, who had just denied her request, as well as other members of her family. That was the beginning of an all-out brawl between the family of the aggressors with the family of the victim. Several women were hitting one another, climbing over seats and pulling each other's hair, while the cabin crew tried in vain to break them apart. At one point, one of the women involved in the fight lost her top and had to cover her breasts with her hands. Eventually, the crew was able to de-escalate the situation and removed 15 unruly passengers from the aircraft. after which the plane was able to proceed to its destination. It was unclear if any arrests or charges were made in connection with the incident. Number 8. John Chapman and Chiquita Jenkins. At the Meteor Buffet restaurant in Huntsville, Alabama, a dispute over crab legs at a dinner buffet ended in a brawl that left two patrons facing misdemeanor charges. Off-duty police officer Gerald Johnson was eating at the aforementioned restaurant on the evening of February the 22nd of 2019 when a fight broke out. Johnson told WHNT-TV that diners had been waiting in line for crab legs for more than 10 minutes, and they lost their tempers once the food came out. One of the customers, 71-year-old John Chapman, allegedly started shoving another customer named Chiquita Jenkins and used a racial slur. Jenkins fought back by pushing before the two ended up in what can best be described as a sword fight, during which they used kitchen tongs as weapons. The 39-year-old was later arrested for assaulting John Chapman, who'd sustained a cut to his head. Chapman was also taken into custody and charged with disorderly conduct. In May of 2019, Jenkins was found not guilty after testimonies from 4 witnesses, including Officer Johnson. It never became clear what sentence Chapman received, if any. Number 7. Alan Hushka. 33-year-old Wisconsin man Alan Hushka was facing charges after being involved in a physical altercation that had stemmed from an argument over a TV show. On the night of December the 8th of 2019, Hushka and his friend had been drinking at a Packers game, after which they drove to a Janesville bar and had a few more. After getting back into the car, the two men started having a dispute about the How I Met Your Mother show. Hushka, who was behind the wheel, began hitting his friend, who was sitting in the passenger seat. Hushka subsequently pulled over along Rotema Road in Harmony Township at around 12:45 a.m. The pair got out and Hushka kept trying to fight his buddy. Consequently, his friend punched him in the face several times in self-defense. A witness who saw the two men fighting called authorities. A responding deputy from the Rock County Sheriff's Office arrived to find Hushka with injuries to his face, a bloody thumb, and bloody clothing. When questioned by the deputy, Hushka had difficulty maintaining his balance and trouble answering, so the deputy continued his interview with the friend. The man claimed that he tried to be the peacekeeper, but Hushka kept trying to fight and argue about the TV show. Hushka was later asked if the show had caused the argument. He laughed and replied in the affirmative, adding, "We love that show." He was taken into custody and charged with DUI. He was also facing 2 counts of bail jumping for violating the terms of his release in 2 other pending cases. During his arraignment, a judge ordered him to maintain absolute sobriety and barred him from operating any motor vehicles. Number 6. James DePaula. On July the 27th of 2016, a Georgia man flew into a fit of rage when his spouse made him a sandwich with 3 slices of cheese after he'd requested only 2 slices. The incident occurred at the couple's Candy Circle home in Athens. When James DePaula became upset, he started yelling profanities at his wife, Michelle. James screamed so ferociously that spit was hitting the woman's face, and he lashed out as though he might hit his wife. When Michelle tried to call 911, James pulled the phone from the wall and a struggle ensued. The couple's child was eventually able to call law enforcement from a cell phone and reported the incident. Upon the officers' arrival, James told them that he didn't want his wife calling them for such a stupid reason. He also admitted destroying the phone. Michelle told the officers that James had previous arrests for domestic violence in another state where they used to live. In the end, James was taken into custody and charged with obstruction of a 911 call and criminal damage to property. Number 5. Michael Aliperti. After losing to a young boy in a Fortnite game, 45-year-old Michael Aliperti from Huntington, New York, threatened to kill him. On the evening of September the 17th of 2018, Aliperti began leaving threats via messages on the boy's Xbox after he'd been beaten in the game. One of the messages stated that he would shoot him. It also said, "You're dead. I will come to your house tonight and f*** your world up." Authorities were informed about the threats, and hours later Alteration was arrested at his Long Island home on charges of second-degree aggravated harassment and acting in a manner to injure a child. Police found an airsoft rifle and a plastic pellet at his residence. Alteration's sister claimed that the man was under stress as he was going through a divorce. The Suffolk County Police Chief said that the incident gave a new definition to the term sore loser. Number 4. Jamil Tremaine Decoeur. As passengers waited at Gate D12 at the Miami International Airport at around 2 p.m. on April the 25th of 2021, a fight broke out between travelers. 20-year-old Jamil Tremaine Decoeur and 3 others were waiting to board a flight to Chicago, Illinois, when they were told there were only 3 standby seats available between the 4 of them. A flight attendant gave them the option of leaving one person behind or taking another flight altogether. For unknown reasons, the group began to fight with 3 other people who were also at the counter. Shortly after this announcement, investigators believe that the fight started when Decoeur punched one of the other travelers in the face, sparking a fight which rippled into 2 separate groups that police said involved 4 suspects and 3 victims. A video of the incident showed a man being repeatedly punched on the ground as a witness shouted, "Stop it, you're going to kill him!" Onlookers called for security and yelled for those involved to stop. In the aftermath, victims were treated for minor injuries at the scene by Miami-Dade Fire Rescue. They declined to pursue further charges. Decoeur was arrested at the scene for disorderly conduct. The video helped authorities identify Decoeur as the primary aggressor. The other suspects, namely Gawone Ross, Terrell Barnes, and Deontay Jones, weren't facing charges. The clip that captured the incident was later posted online and garnered millions of views. Number 3. Brawl over a San Antonio parking space. Surveillance camera captured a huge Texas man beating a woman before hurling her small body into the road in San Antonio. The harrowing incident took place in September of 2018 at the Golden Wok Chinese restaurant parking lot. Apparently, the parking lot didn't have many vacancies. When one parking space had just become available, a black SUV slowly moved to occupy the space, but another vehicle, driven by Norma Lozano, suddenly overtook the SUV and got in the spot first. A man exited the SUV and approached Norma, who subsequently got out of her Lexus. After a brief chat with the man, Norma left and went on her way. The man then cursed and yelled as he accused her of taking the spot he'd been waiting for. In the video, Norma's daughter, 21-year-old Angelica, could be seen exiting their Lexus. As she walked in front of their car, she saw the enraged man kick the Lexus. Angelica walked over and punched him on the side of his face. At that point, he turned around and slammed her head against another vehicle beside the Lexus. He proceeded to pummel her several times in the head and body. Norma was seen going back to the scene and was immediately pushed by the man, causing her to fall to the ground. Angelica wasn't deterred and pursued the man as he was about to get back into his vehicle. The man knocked her to the ground once more before fleeing the scene. The onslaught had left Angelica with black eyes, a swollen face, bruises, and scratches in her body. It was unclear if the mother had sustained any injuries of note. According to media reports on the matter, police had identified the suspect and started an investigation. However, it never became clear if any charges were filed in connection to the incident. Today's topic was requested by Helena McCain 1848. If you have any other topics you'd like to learn about, subscribe and let us know in the comments section below. Number 2. Kristen Michelle Howard. A domestic dispute over chicken and biscuits landed a Florida woman behind bars following allegations that she had attacked her mother. Shortly before 11:30 p.m. on June the 19th of 2015, Flagler County Sheriff's deputies were called to the Ponderosa Mobile Home Park on US 1 in Bunnell. 50-year-old Kimberly Miller accused her daughter of coming home inebriated. According to Miller, her daughter, 31-year-old Kristen Michelle Howard, completely ignored her and started making a plate of chicken and biscuits. Miller told Howard the food wasn't hers. Howard said she didn't care who it belonged to and then smashed the plate in the sink When asked to leave the house, Howard punched her mother in the face, shoved her, and threw tea on her. Upon the deputy's arrival, the woman was arrested on charges of domestic battery. Records indicated that it was her 6th battery arrest since February of 2008. We're lining up when playing with fire goes wrong, right after number 1. For those of you who missed that release a while back, keep watching if you'd like. Number 1. The Pippert Brothers. 2 Wisconsin brothers landed behind bars in Sheboygan jail after they got into a fight over a bottle of shampoo on June the 12th of 2011. 32-year-old Jonathan Pippert and 27-year-old Jared had been at their home at 2728 South 10th Street, where they lived with their mother. Jonathan went into Jared's room and took a bottle of shampoo from him. Jared caught him taking the bottle and attacked him. Police responded to the scene after receiving a report of a disturbance. They found Jonathan on the lawn yelling profanities at his mother. After talking to the brothers, officers found that they both had various cuts and bruises across their upper bodies. According to a criminal complaint, the 2 Sheboygan brothers were charged with disorderly conduct the following day. Jonathan was looking at 2 years in jail, partly because of other crimes he had committed, while Jared could spend 3 months behind bars. Number 8. Sarah Lilly. 36-year-old New York woman Sarah Lilly was arrested in January of 2023 in connection to a fire that had ravaged several units at Springbrook Apartments in Springville. Erie County Sheriff's deputies and multiple volunteer fire companies were dispatched to deal with the rapidly expanding blaze on January the 23rd. Several homes were destroyed and at least 20 residents were displaced, but no injuries were reported. The authorities determined that the face-tattooed Lilly was a resident on the same block and that she'd intentionally started the fire in her apartment, although her motives remained unclear. She was subsequently charged with 1 count of arson in the 2nd degree, a Class B felony. Lilly was held without bail pending a pre-trial hearing, expected to take place in March. If convicted, she faced up to 25 years in prison. At the time of her arson charges, Lilly had a pending felony burglary and petty theft case in Springville Village Court, stemming from an incident that had occurred on October the 20th of 2022. On that day, she'd entered and unlawfully remained inside of a Walmart on South Cascade Drive, stealing about $40 worth of merchandise. She'd done so in spite of having been banned from the store following a shoplifting incident that had occurred earlier in the year. Number 7. Brianna Johnson. On the evening of July the 18th of 2022, Brianna Johnson and her boyfriend 25-year-old Ricky Doyle were arguing at a gas station in Arlington, Texas. As indicated by a police affidavit, the woman had at one point threatened to kill Doyle. 24-year-old Johnson then pumped gasoline on her boyfriend as he sat in the back of a Jeep. Moments later, she walked around to the driver's side and lit the liquid. Doyle was quickly engulfed by flames. He got out of the vehicle and ran around the parking lot trying to stop his body from burning. By the time that a customer used a fire extinguisher to put him out, Doyle was bleeding and had skin that appeared to have melted off his body. As bystanders tended to his wounds in the gas station, Johnson reportedly tried to claim that he'd accidentally caught fire because she'd been smoking while pumping gas. However, witnesses confronted her, saying that they'd seen her intentionally setting him ablaze. One bystander tried to detain Johnson until the police arrived, but the woman pushed them to the ground and drove away. She was arrested later in the month and initially charged with aggravated assault. Doyle succumbed to his injuries on August the 2nd, which led to Johnson's charges being updated to murder. Number 6. Angelina Kando. New York City woman Angelina Kando, aged 30, was arrested in mid-February of 2022 for setting fire to a gay pride flag and vandalizing 2 police squad cars. Kando was caught by surveillance cameras approaching the French bistro Little Prince in Soho at around 1:30 a.m. She used a lighter and ignited a rainbow-colored Make America Gay Again flag that was hanging outside the restaurant. The fire damaged the outside of the establishment and filled the interior with smoke while workers were still inside. The blaze was extinguished by first responders and no injuries were reported. Kando was subsequently arrested and charged with arson, criminal mischief, and reckless endangerment, all classified as hate crimes. She was also charged with criminal mischief for scrawling "Jesus is King" on the back of 2 NYPD squad cars parked on Varick Street, between Erickson Place and North Moore Street. The woman who lived in Manhattan, not far from the restaurant, appeared before a judge on February the 22nd and, in spite of the damning evidence, had several outbursts proclaiming her innocence. A subsequent court date was set for March. The arson case marked Kando's third arrest over the course of a month. She'd previously been taken into custody for assault following an incident from January the 30th in which she'd allegedly attacked a 67-year-old male relative in her apartment. She'd reportedly hit him with a guitar in addition to throwing a plate and a glass at him. A few days later, on February the 2nd, she threatened a man with a knife in a pizza shop. She was released without bail after both incidents. Number 5. Wilbur Romero. On October the 13th of 2019, at around 4:30 a.m., a fire erupted at the Romero household in Logan Heights, San Diego. Only 26-year-old Wilbur Romero escaped the blaze unscathed. His father, Jose Antonio, age 44, was found dead inside the home, while his mother, 46-year-old Nicolasa, succumbed to her injuries in a hospital. Wilbur's sister, 21-year-old Iris Romero, was reported to have used her body to shield their teenage brother, Angel, who was able to get out of the home by climbing through a window. Their sister Wendy, aged 24, reportedly banged on a door with such force that she broke her fingers. As she struggled to escape the house, neighbors kicked down the door and were able to save her. Witnesses would later report seeing family members poking their fingers through bars in the windows as the raging flames consumed their home. Wendy and Angel were injured, but they survived, while Iris passed away in a hospital 2 days after the fire. In the incident's immediate aftermath, Wilbur told a media outlet that he'd been awakened by his dog and saw that his bed was on fire. He claimed that after leaving the home, he'd tried to save those still trapped inside by using a garden hose before calling for help.
There was one detective that was trying to tell me to say that I did it, and it goes like this, and I could tell you, detective, this. I'm not gonna say I did it because I know I didn't do it.
Later on, he attended a vigil for his deceased family members where he thanked neighbors and friends for their support. Within a few days, however, law enforcement determined that Wilbur had actually started the fire inside his home before slipping out of a side door with the family dog. He was arrested on charges of murder, attempted murder, and arson. Angel claimed that Wilbur had started fires around the home about a dozen times in the past, including a recent one on the roof, and that he talked about burning the house down and burning everybody in it. It subsequently emerged that the fire had originated on his bed. Wendy told detectives that her brother had ignored her and ran down the street when she screamed at him for help while trapped in the house. Wilbur's public defender nevertheless argued that he'd loved his family and didn't want them to die, pointing to his efforts of using a hose to try and put out the fire as evidence in that regard. In October of 2022, Wilbur pleaded guilty to second-degree murder charges and was ultimately sentenced to 45 years in prison. Number 4. Ryan Morrow. A Georgia teenager was identified as the person behind 2 fires which had erupted in Coweta County in March of 2023. In the early morning hours of March the 8th, Coweta County Fire Rescue were called to both a mobile home fire and a travel trailer fire. Law enforcement determined that the 2 blazes were connected and that both had been started by 18-year-old Ryan Morrow. He was arrested that same day in a mobile home from the area. The police launched an investigation but didn't disclose Morrow's connection to the burning homes or their owners. The teenager was arrested and charged with reckless conduct, criminal damage to property, and 2 counts of first-degree arson. Number 3. William Gary Wright. In the fall of 2022, the Chatham County Police Department was called on the 200 block of Larchmont Drive in Savannah, Georgia, to reports of a woman on fire. Officers determined that the unnamed victim had been involved in a domestic dispute with 42-year-old William Gary Wright. As the argument escalated, the latter had reportedly poured gasoline on her and set her ablaze. The 31-year-old woman was first taken to a Savannah hospital and later transported to a burn center in Augusta with 2nd and 3rd degree burns. Her condition wasn't reported to have been life-threatening. Wright was arrested and taken to Chatham County Detention Center. The man, who appeared to be distraught in his booking photo, was charged with aggravated assault and aggravated battery. Number 2. Buckingham Palace Incident. On December the 20th of 2022, a man was detained by law enforcement in London, England, after he'd started a fire outside Buckingham Palace. A short clip subsequently started circulating on social media that show the unidentified 30-year-old igniting something while at the gates of the royal residence. The police responded within seconds, and an officer took the man to the ground, pinning him with his knee. A second officer then arrived at the scene to help secure the suspect. According to the police's initial findings, the man's actions had been a form of protest, although his cause wasn't specified. The fire was extinguished and he was arrested on suspicion of causing criminal damage. Number 1. Chofel Norbu. In October of 2022, a New York City man set fire to the Bangladeshi Itadi Garden and Grill in Queens after the restaurant had reportedly gotten his order wrong. The fire department of New York released CCTV footage of a man clad in all black, subsequently identified as 49-year-old Chofel Norbu, as he picked up a bucket and poured it through the slots of the restaurant's gates. The establishment was closed at the time, which was around 6 a.m. Norbu then bent down and lit the flammable liquid, which erupted in a massive flame. It blasted back against the arsonist, and the surveillance clip would show him fleeing with his shoes ablaze. The fire continued to burn on the pavement outside the restaurant, while the business itself sustained superficial damage, mainly to its windows. The fire department released the footage on social media, and within less than 2 weeks of the October 2nd incident, Norbu was arrested without incident. He revealed to law enforcement that he'd started the fire as a way of retaliating against the restaurant for his botched order. Norbu was quoted as saying, "I was very drunk. I bought chicken biryani. They didn't give me chicken biryani." The man was charged with arson, criminal mischief, and reckless endangerment. Under New York bail reform laws, the charges made Norbu eligible for release, which he was granted during an arraignment on October 15th. The decision was criticized by online users reacting to the news and frustrated police officers who'd worked alongside the fire department to track Norbu down. One officer told a media outlet, "He set a store on fire. He planned this. Why is he out the next day?" Thanks for watching. If someone stole your parking spot, would your reaction be any different? If the person stealing the spot was an old lady or a muscly looking dude? Let us know in the comments section below.